People rarely abandon someone because they know the whole truth. They walk away because they believe they have already seen enough. Nathan Brooks stood quietly in the hallway outside the apartment as the last cardboard box landed beside his feet. Across the doorway, Vanessa Brooks folded her arms and looked at him with a mixture of disappointment and exhaustion that had been building for months. "I cannot keep living like this," she said. "Every year you promise things will get better, but nothing ever changes." Nathan looked at the worn suitcase resting beside the boxes without arguing. "I know these past months have been difficult," he answered calmly. Vanessa let out a frustrated sigh. "Difficult? We have been counting every dollar, driving the same old pickup truck, and watching everyone else move forward while we stay exactly where we started." Nathan remained silent for a moment before speaking again. "Not everything is visible the moment it is happening." She shook her head. "That is exactly the problem. You always talk about patience, but patience does not pay bills or build a future." Nathan understood why she felt that way. For nearly 4 years, he had poured almost everything he owned into one confidential project after another, refusing to touch money that could have made his personal life look more comfortable. Every long day, every quiet weekend, and every late night had been spent building something that almost no one knew existed. Even Vanessa had never been told the full story because legal agreements prevented him from discussing it. He had accepted that burden without complaint, believing the results would eventually speak for themselves. Vanessa stepped aside and opened the apartment door wider. "I already signed a lease," she said. "I am moving into the Grand Crescent Hotel until everything settles down. At least I will finally be surrounded by people who understand success." Nathan recognized the name immediately. The Grand Crescent Hotel overlooked the Charlotte skyline and had become one of the city's most talked-about luxury destinations during the past year. He simply nodded. "I hope you find what you are looking for." Vanessa looked, surprised that he was not arguing. "That is all you have to say?" Nathan offered a faint smile. "You already made your decision." She picked up her purse and looked directly at him. "You are a good man, Nathan. But being good is not enough when someone has no ambition." Those words lingered in the quiet hallway long after she turned away. Nathan slowly picked up his suitcase, carried it to his aging white pickup truck parked outside, and placed it behind the driver's seat. He looked once toward the apartment building before starting the engine. There was no anger in his expression, only the calm acceptance of someone who understood that explaining the truth before the right moment would change nothing. As he pulled away from the curb, his phone began ringing through the truck speakers. The caller identification displayed a familiar name, Sophia Reynolds. Nathan answered with his usual steady voice. "Good evening, Sophia." Her excitement was impossible to hide. "Mr. Brooks, everything is finally ready. The hotel has completed every preparation for tomorrow morning. Your private inspection has been scheduled, the executive team is waiting for your arrival, and no one suspects that the owner will be walking through the front entrance in an old white pickup truck." The next morning, Nathan Brooks parked his old white pickup truck several blocks away from the Grand Crescent Hotel and spent a few quiet minutes watching the morning sunlight reflect across the building's glass exterior. Years earlier, the property had been an aging downtown landmark that most investors believe could never compete with newer luxury hotels. Nathan had seen something different. While others saw a failing building, he saw a history worth preserving and a future worth building. He had quietly purchased the property through a private investment company, personally overseeing every renovation while keeping his ownership confidential. The decision had required nearly every dollar he owned, countless sleepless nights, and years of patience. Even now, very few people knew the complete story. His phone vibrated once. A message from Sophia Reynolds appeared on the screen. "The executive team has arrived. The staff meeting begins in 45 minutes. We are ready whenever you are." Nathan smiled softly before placing the phone back into his pocket. Instead of walking directly to the entrance, he crossed the street toward a neighborhood coffee shop where he had started nearly every workday throughout the renovation project. The same barista recognized him immediately. "Good morning, Mr. Brooks." "The usual?" Nathan nodded. "Black coffee, please." As she prepared the order, she smiled. "I drove past the hotel yesterday. It looks incredible. Whoever owns that place must be very proud." Nathan accepted the cup with a quiet thank you. "I hope the guests feel welcome. That matters most." A few minutes later, Several black sport utility vehicles arrived outside the hotel entrance as reporters gathered across the street. Rumors had spread throughout the hospitality industry that the mysterious owner planned to visit after months of remaining completely out of public view. Hotel employees adjusted uniforms, polished the marble reception desk one final time, and carefully reviewed arrival procedures. Inside the executive office, Sophia Reynolds met with Director of Operations Marcus Collins and Executive Assistant Emily Carter. "Remember," Sophia said calmly, "our owner prefers professionalism over ceremony. Treat today like any other inspection. Respect comes from preparation, not performance." Emily glanced through the schedule. "Do we know what time he will arrive?" Sophia smiled. "Soon enough." At nearly the same time, Vanessa Brooks stepped through the hotel's revolving doors carrying designer shopping bags and looking noticeably more relaxed than she had the previous evening. She admired the elegant lobby, fresh floral arrangements, polished stone floors, and soft piano music filling the space. A concierge greeted her warmly before asking whether she was enjoying her stay. "Very much," Vanessa replied with a smile. "Everything here feels first class." The concierge thanked her proudly. "Our owner insists every guest should feel that way." Vanessa nodded approvingly. Whoever built this place clearly understands success. She walked toward the elevators without noticing several managers quietly gathering near the entrance. Outside, Nathan finished the last sip of his coffee, placed the empty cup in a recycling bin, and started his pickup truck. He drove slowly beneath the hotel's covered entrance where valets instinctively moved toward the vehicle before realizing the driver looked nothing like the wealthy executive they had imagined. Some exchanged curious glances while reporters lifted their cameras with uncertain expressions. Nathan stepped out wearing pressed jeans, polished work boots, and a simple navy button-down shirt beneath a light gray jacket. He closed the truck door, picked up a worn leather portfolio, and calmly walked toward the entrance. Before anyone could ask his name, Sophia Reynolds hurried across the lobby with a genuine smile, extending her hand as every nearby employee stopped what they were doing to watch. "Welcome back, Mr. Brooks," she said warmly. "Your hotel is ready for you." Vanessa Brooks stopped in the middle of the marble lobby as every nearby employee turned toward Nathan Brooks with unmistakable respect. She frowned slightly, convinced there had to be a simple explanation. Perhaps he had once worked with the hotel's management team, or maybe he was a contractor invited to inspect a renovation project. Nothing else seemed reasonable. She watched Sophia Reynolds greet him with genuine warmth before personally leading him away from the main entrance instead of allowing another manager to escort him. Nathan smiled politely at the concierge, thanked the valet for his professionalism, and paused briefly to compliment a housekeeper arranging fresh flowers near the reception desk. "The lobby looks beautiful this morning," he said. The housekeeper smiled proudly. "Thank you, Mr. Brooks. We wanted everything to be perfect." Nathan nodded. "It already is." Vanessa noticed the exchange and quietly wondered why employees seemed to know him so well. She stepped closer to the reception desk and casually asked the concierge, "Who is that gentleman?" The concierge smiled politely. "I am sorry, ma'am, but I cannot discuss private matters involving ownership or executive leadership." Vanessa blinked in surprise. "Ownership," she repeated. The concierge immediately realized he had said more than intended and politely excused himself to assist another arriving guest. Vanessa looked toward the private executive elevators where Nathan and Sophia had just disappeared. Her curiosity grew stronger with every passing second. Upstairs, the executive conference room overlooked the Charlotte skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. Marcus Collins and Emily Carter stood as Nathan entered the room. "Good morning, Mr. Brooks," Marcus said with a firm handshake. Emily smiled warmly before handing Nathan a neatly organized leather binder. "These are the final operating reports, guest satisfaction scores, staffing updates, and financial summaries since the grand opening." Nathan thanked her before taking a seat at the conference table. Instead of opening the financial reports first, he reached for the guest feedback section. He spent several quiet minutes reading handwritten comments left by families, business travelers, newly married couples, and elderly guests celebrating anniversaries. One message made him smile. A retired schoolteacher had written that the hotel staff treated her with kindness from the moment she arrived until the day she checked out. Nathan closed the binder gently. "This," he said while tapping the page, is more valuable than any revenue report. Marcus nodded with understanding. Your philosophy has shaped the entire culture here. Nathan looked around the room at the leadership team. Luxury should never be measured only by marble floors or expensive furniture. People remember how they are treated long after they forget the decorations. Every executive quietly agreed because they had heard him repeat the same principle throughout the renovation and opening process. Downstairs, reporters continued gathering outside as speculation spread across social media about the mysterious owner finally appearing in public. Several guests wandered into the lobby hoping to catch a glimpse of the person responsible for transforming one of Charlotte's oldest buildings into its newest luxury destination. Vanessa returned to her suite but found herself unable to relax. Every conversation she overheard seemed to revolve around the owner's arrival. She stood beside the large window overlooking the city until an announcement appeared on the hotel's internal television channel. Attention, all executive staff. The ownership presentation will begin in 15 minutes inside the grand ballroom. Department leaders are requested to attend immediately. Vanessa quietly repeated the words to herself before glancing toward the ballroom, located one floor below. She smiled with confidence, imagining that within minutes everyone would finally meet the wealthy investor she had expected all along. Never realizing the man she had called too poor less than 24 hours earlier was already waiting behind those closed doors. The grand ballroom gradually filled with department directors, executive managers, hospitality partners, and invited business leaders, each quietly discussing the long-awaited arrival of the hotel's mysterious owner. Crystal chandeliers reflected across polished marble floors, while servers offered coffee and refreshments to guests waiting for the presentation to begin. At the back of the ballroom, Vanessa Brooks found an empty seat where she could easily watch the stage. She had no official reason to attend, but no one questioned a hotel guest curious enough to observe such an important event. Around her, conversations centered on speculation. Some believed the owner was an international investor. Others insisted the property belonged to a famous real estate billionaire who valued privacy above publicity. One executive even claimed the owner never appeared in public without a security team. Vanessa listened with growing curiosity, convinced she was about to see someone whose success matched every image she had always associated with wealth. Behind the ballroom doors, Nathan Brooks stood quietly with Sophia Reynolds, Marcus Collins, and Emily Carter reviewing the schedule one final time. Sophia looked toward him with a respectful smile. The media has requested interviews immediately after your remarks. Nathan nodded. That is fine, but I want to spend time with the employees before speaking to the press. Marcus smiled because the request was exactly what he expected. Housekeeping, maintenance, and the kitchen staff will appreciate hearing that. Nathan adjusted the cuff of his shirt before replying. They helped build this place just as much as anyone sitting in the executive offices. Emily handed him a slim presentation folder. Everything is ready whenever you are. Nathan accepted it, but did not open it. I already know what matters most. Moments later, the ballroom lights dimmed slightly as soft music faded. Sophia walked onto the stage first and welcomed everyone before thanking the architects, designers, contractors, employees, and community partners who had transformed one of Charlotte's oldest buildings into one of its finest luxury destinations. She spoke briefly about the hotel's commitment to service, excellence, and long-term investment before pausing with a warm smile. Many of you have worked here for months without ever meeting the person whose vision made all of this possible, she said. Today I have the honor of introducing the founder and owner of the Grand Crescent Hotel. The room immediately fell silent. Vanessa leaned forward in anticipation, expecting someone surrounded by assistants and security personnel to emerge from behind the curtain. Instead, the ballroom doors opened quietly, and Nathan walked in carrying the same worn leather portfolio he had brought the previous day, dressed in the same simple gray jacket and polished work boots. For a brief moment, the room remained completely still as guests tried to understand what they were seeing. Then every employee throughout the ballroom rose to their feet at once. Applause echoed across the room as Sophia stepped forward with genuine pride. Please welcome Mr. Nathan Brooks. Vanessa stared at the stage without blinking. She looked from Nathan to the standing employees and back again, certain there had to be some misunderstanding. Nathan climbed the steps with calm confidence, shook Sophia's hand, and thanked her quietly before turning toward the audience. Marcus and Emily joined the applause while department managers smiled with unmistakable respect. Nathan reached the podium and looked across the ballroom with the same composed expression Vanessa had seen so many times at home, except now every eye in the room was fixed on him. Before speaking about the hotel, he glanced toward the audience, and his eyes briefly met Vanessa's. The surprise on her face confirmed she had finally realized that the man she believed was too poor to build a future had quietly been welcoming thousands of guests into a future he had built himself. The applause continued for nearly a full minute before Nathan Brooks gently raised one hand, inviting the room to settle into silence. He stood behind the podium without any dramatic gestures, looking across the ballroom not with pride, but with quiet gratitude. "Thank you for being here today," he began. "Many people believe luxury begins with beautiful buildings, expensive furniture, or impressive architecture. I have never believed that. Luxury begins the moment someone feels genuinely welcomed." The room listened attentively as Nathan continued. "Years ago, when I first walked through this building, I did not see a failing hotel. I saw people whose jobs could be saved, local businesses that could grow, and a place where families, travelers, and visitors could create meaningful memories. That vision never changed, even when the renovation became more expensive than expected and many people believed the project would never succeed." Vanessa Brooks remained frozen in her seat, every word making the previous evening replay more painfully in her mind. Nathan had never spoken to her about hidden wealth because there had been no hidden wealth at the beginning. He had quietly invested everything he owned into rebuilding a forgotten property that nobody else wanted. While she believed he lacked ambition, he had simply chosen to invest in a future instead of displaying success before it existed. Nathan smiled toward the employees seated throughout the ballroom. "This hotel does not belong to one individual. My name may appear on the ownership documents, but every employee who greeted a guest with kindness, prepared a room with care, served a meal with pride, or solved a problem with patience, helped create what people now call luxury." Several housekeepers exchanged emotional smiles while members of the kitchen staff applauded softly. Nathan continued, "People often ask why I never announced that I owned this hotel. The answer is simple. Respect earned through titles disappears quickly. Respect earned through character lasts much longer." Reporters seated near the front immediately wrote down the sentence. Nathan thanked the architects, engineers, designers, contractors, and hospitality professionals who had transformed the aging property into one of Charlotte's finest destinations before making one final announcement. "Today marks a new chapter for this hotel, but I want that chapter to begin by recognizing the people who believed in this vision long before it became successful. Every full-time employee who remained with the hotel from opening day until now will receive a performance bonus and expanded professional development opportunities because loyalty deserves more than applause." The ballroom erupted again as employees looked at one another with genuine excitement. Nathan stepped away from the podium while Sophia Reynolds returned to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said proudly, "this is exactly why those of us who have worked with Mr. Brooks from the beginning continue to believe in his leadership." As cameras flashed across the room, Nathan thanked Sophia quietly before walking down from the stage instead of remaining in the spotlight. He immediately approached several employees waiting nearby, shaking hands, remembering names, and asking about their families with the same humility he had always shown. Vanessa watched every moment in complete silence. She realized that the greatest surprise was not discovering Nathan owned the hotel. The greater surprise was realizing that success had never changed him because kindness, patience, and quiet confidence had always been part of his character. As the ballroom gradually emptied and executives prepared for media interviews, Vanessa stood slowly from her chair, determined to speak with Nathan before leaving, only to see Sophia gently approach him and whisper something that caused both of them to look toward the private executive offices upstairs, where an unexpected meeting had just been requested behind closed doors. Instead of walking toward the line of reporters waiting outside the ballroom, Nathan Brooks followed Sophia Reynolds through a quiet hallway leading to the executive offices overlooking downtown Charlotte. The moment the conference room door closed behind them, Marcus Collins and Emily Carter stood to greet him. There was no celebration inside the room, only detailed project schedules, financial reports, employee development plans, and renovation proposals spread neatly across the long conference table. Nathan smiled as he looked at the documents. "Now this feels like real progress," he said. Sophia laughed softly. "Most owners would have spent the afternoon giving interviews." Nathan removed his gray jacket and placed it neatly over the back of his chair. "Television cameras eventually leave. The people working in this building stay." Marcus slid a folder toward him. "These are the employee recognition recommendations we discussed last month." Nathan opened the folder carefully, reading each page without rushing. Every recommendation included employees who had quietly gone beyond their job descriptions during the hotel's first year. Housekeepers who trained new staff without additional pay, maintenance technicians who volunteered during emergency repairs, front desk associates praised repeatedly by returning guests, and kitchen employees whose ideas had improved service throughout the hotel. Nathan looked up with a satisfied smile. "Approve every recommendation." Marcus nodded. "Even the expanded education assistance?" Nathan answered without hesitation. "Especially that one. When people continue learning, the entire company becomes stronger." Emily added another document to the stack. "There is also the proposal for employee ownership bonuses after the next fiscal year." Nathan read it before making one small adjustment with his pen. "Increase the percentage for the longest-serving employees. They accepted the greatest risk when success was uncertain." Sophia exchanged a knowing smile with Marcus because the decision reflected the same values Nathan had demonstrated since purchasing the property years earlier. Meanwhile, Vanessa Brooks remained quietly outside the ballroom after most guests had departed. She watched employees laughing together as they discussed the unexpected bonuses and professional opportunities announced during the presentation. No one spoke about expensive watches, luxury cars, or executive privileges. They talked about appreciation, opportunity, and respect. Vanessa slowly realized those conversations explained why every employee looked at Nathan with genuine admiration instead of simple obligation. As she stood near the lobby windows, she noticed a housekeeper arranging fresh flowers beside the reception desk. Remembering Nathan's earlier conversation, Vanessa walked over and asked softly, "May I ask you something?" The woman smiled warmly. "Of course." Vanessa hesitated before speaking. "Has Mr. Brooks always been like this?" The housekeeper's smile grew even brighter. "From the first day I met him. During the renovation, he learned everyone's name. When my husband became sick, he quietly adjusted my schedule so I could care for my family without worrying about losing my job. He never told anyone he helped. That is simply the kind of person he is." Vanessa thanked her quietly before walking away, feeling the weight of every assumption she had made over the past several years. Upstairs, the executive meeting concluded as Nathan stood beside the large windows overlooking the city he had invested so much to serve. Sophia approached with a respectful smile. "The media is still waiting downstairs." Nathan nodded. "They can wait a few more minutes." He picked up another folder and looked toward Marcus. "Before I speak to the cameras, I want to visit housekeeping, maintenance, the kitchen, and the front desk. The people working there deserve my thanks before anyone asks me another question about ownership." As Nathan walked toward the elevator with his leadership team, the doors opened quietly to reveal Vanessa standing alone in the hallway, her eyes filled not with surprise anymore, but with the unmistakable regret of someone who had finally discovered the true measure of the man she had chosen to leave. The elevator doors opened quietly, and for a brief moment neither Nathan Brooks nor Vanessa Brooks spoke. The hallway overlooking the Charlotte skyline felt strangely peaceful after the excitement of the ballroom below. Nathan stepped out first, carrying only the same worn leather portfolio that had followed him through years of uncertainty. Sophia Reynolds immediately sensed the moment was personal and looked toward Marcus Collins with a small nod. "We will begin the employee visits downstairs," she said softly. "Take your time, Mr. Brooks." As the leadership team disappeared down the hallway, Nathan and Vanessa remained standing several feet apart. Vanessa finally broke the silence. "May I have a few minutes?" she asked, her voice quieter than he had ever heard it. Nathan looked at his watch before nodding once. "A few minutes." They walked together toward a seating area beside the tall windows overlooking the city. Neither rushed to speak. Vanessa took a slow breath before looking directly at him. "Yesterday I believed I understood exactly who you were," she said. Today I realized I never truly understood you at all. Nathan listened without interrupting. When I told you that you were too poor to build the life I wanted, I believed I was talking about money. I see now that I was actually measuring success by appearances instead of character. She lowered her eyes. Watching everyone here today changed something inside me. It was not discovering that you own this hotel. It was seeing the way people respect you when they believe you are not watching. Housekeepers smiled when they spoke about you. Managers trusted you. Employees celebrated because you rewarded them before rewarding yourself. None of that can be purchased. Nathan remained calm. Buildings can be purchased, he replied gently. Trust cannot. Vanessa nodded slowly. The housekeeper downstairs told me how you helped her family without ever telling anyone. She said you learned everyone's name during the renovation. I kept asking myself how I could have lived beside you for years and still failed to see the man everyone else already knew. Nathan looked through the window toward the streets below where his old white pickup truck remained parked exactly where he had left it. People usually see what they expect to see, he said. That includes both good and bad. Vanessa felt tears gathering in her eyes, though she quickly brushed them away. I thought your old truck represented failure. I thought investing everything into one project was reckless. I thought patience meant you lacked ambition. Every assumption I made was wrong. Nathan answered quietly. The hotel was never a secret because I wanted to impress anyone later. It remained private because the investment company required confidentiality until every legal transfer and redevelopment agreement had been completed. By the time everything was finalized, I realized something important. If people respected me only because I owned a luxury hotel, then they never truly respected me. Vanessa looked at him with genuine regret. I left because I believed there was nothing worth waiting for. Nathan met her eyes with the same calm expression that had never changed through success or hardship. Sometimes the hardest seasons reveal who is willing to stay before there is any visible reward. Vanessa took another slow breath. I am not asking you to forget what I said. I know I cannot erase yesterday. I only want the chance to earn back the trust one threw away. Nathan remained thoughtful for several quiet seconds before answering. Trust is rebuilt the same way this hotel was restored. One careful decision at a time, with consistency, patience, and honesty. There are no shortcuts. Vanessa accepted his words with a small nod because, for the first time, she understood that the greatest distance between them had never been money. It had always been belief. After a few quiet moments, Nathan Brooks looked at Vanessa Brooks with a calm expression that revealed neither anger nor triumph. I need to meet the employees, he said gently. They have been waiting longer than anyone else today. Vanessa nodded immediately. I understand. She stepped aside without asking him to stay because she realized that, for the first time in a long while, his priorities had never been about proving anything to her. Nathan walked downstairs with the same steady pace he always carried, and within minutes he entered the employee areas hidden behind the elegant lobby that most guests never saw. The atmosphere changed the moment he arrived. Housekeepers paused their work to greet him warmly. Maintenance technicians smiled as they shook his hand, and kitchen staff proudly invited him to sample a new dessert they hoped to add to the seasonal menu. Nathan greeted each person by name whenever he could, asking about their families, congratulating recent promotions, and thanking new employees for choosing to become part of the hotel's future. There was no distance between the owner and the people keeping the hotel running every day. Sophia Reynolds quietly watched from nearby and smiled as one young front desk associate whispered, I have never worked anywhere the owner actually knows who I am. Sophia answered softly, that is exactly why people stay here. Nathan gathered everyone in the employee dining room for a brief meeting before the evening shift began. There were no reporters, no cameras, and no executives standing behind him. Only the people who welcomed guests long before sunrise and continued working long after the lobby became quiet each night. Nathan looked around the room before speaking. Yesterday, many people learned who owns this hotel, he said. Today, I want everyone here to remember something much more important. Ownership means responsibility, not privilege. If this building succeeds while the people inside it struggle, then I have failed regardless of what the financial reports say. The room became completely silent. Nathan continued. Beginning next quarter, every department will receive expanded professional training opportunities, additional education assistance, and new performance incentives tied to teamwork instead of individual competition. I want careers to grow here, not simply paychecks. Applause filled the room, but Nathan raised his hand with a modest smile. Save your applause for the guests who returned because of your work. They are the reason this hotel has a future. Meanwhile, Vanessa quietly walked through the lobby where she noticed employees speaking about Nathan with genuine admiration rather than obligation. No one mentioned his wealth. No one talked about luxury. They spoke about kindness, fairness, and the confidence of working for someone who always remembered their efforts. She stopped beside a large framed photograph showing the hotel during its early renovation. The aging building looked almost unrecognizable compared to the elegant property surrounding her now. Beneath the picture hung a small bronze plaque engraved with a simple sentence chosen by the owner. Great places are built by people who care long before anyone notices. Vanessa read the words twice before closing her eyes. She finally understood that Nathan had never been chasing the appearance of success. He had been patiently building something meaningful while she had been searching for immediate proof that success already existed. Later that afternoon, as Nathan finished thanking the final employee and prepared to leave for the day, Marcus Collins approached with a smile. "The Community Foundation approved your proposal this morning," he said. Nathan looked pleasantly surprised. "Earlier than expected." Marcus nodded. "Would you like to announce it tomorrow?" Nathan smiled as he glanced once toward the lobby where Vanessa stood quietly waiting. "Yes," he replied, "because the greatest investment this hotel will ever make is not in the building itself, but in the people whose futures are still waiting to be built." The following morning, the Grand Crescent Hotel welcomed not only guests but also local educators, community leaders, hospitality students, and every employee who could gather in the main ballroom before the day officially began. Unlike the previous event, there were no reporters chasing dramatic headlines or investors waiting for financial announcements. Nathan Brooks had requested a simple gathering focused on the future rather than on recognition. Standing beside Sophia Reynolds, Marcus Collins, and Emily Carter, he looked across the room filled with familiar faces and smiled warmly. "Yesterday people celebrated a hotel," he began. "Today I would rather celebrate the people who give this building its purpose." The audience became completely silent. Nathan continued, "A beautiful building without opportunity is only architecture. A successful business that does not improve lives has forgotten why it exists." He invited several longtime employees onto the stage and personally thanked them for believing in the vision years before anyone could guarantee success. Then he announced the launch of the Grand Crescent Community Foundation, a permanent program funded by the hotel's future profits to provide hospitality scholarships, skilled trade education, emergency employee assistance, and paid internships for young people throughout Charlotte who dreamed of building meaningful careers. The ballroom erupted into heartfelt applause, but Nathan simply stepped aside so the employees receiving recognition could stand in the spotlight instead. Watching from the audience, Vanessa Brooks realized that every important decision Nathan made seemed designed to lift someone else rather than himself. When the ceremony concluded, guests slowly returned to their daily routines while employees gathered excitedly to discuss the opportunities now available to their families and future coworkers. Nathan quietly thanked Sophia, Marcus, and Emily before walking outside toward the familiar white pickup truck waiting beneath the morning sun. Vanessa stood nearby, no longer carrying expensive shopping bags or searching for symbols of wealth. She approached him with a gentle smile that reflected humility instead of expectation. "I watched everything again," she said softly. "You could have spent today celebrating yourself, but you chose to invest in people who may never be able to repay you." Nathan leaned lightly against the truck and smiled. "The hotel has enough beautiful rooms. What matters now is helping people build better futures beyond these walls." Vanessa nodded thoughtfully. "I finally understand why this truck never embarrassed you." Nathan looked at the aging vehicle with quiet affection. It carried blueprints, construction supplies, and long days of hard work before anyone knew what this hotel would become. "I could replace it tomorrow, but it reminds me never to confuse appearances with purpose." Vanessa took a slow breath before speaking again. "I cannot ask you to erase what happened between us. I only hope one day I can earn the trust one lost." Nathan met her eyes with the same calm kindness that had remained unchanged through every difficult season. "Trust is never rebuilt through promises alone," he said. "It grows through consistent choices made over time." Vanessa accepted those words without disappointment because she finally understood that genuine forgiveness was not a shortcut, but a journey. Together they walked toward the hotel entrance at an unhurried pace, not because every wound had already healed, but because both had chosen honesty over pride and patience over regret. As the morning sunlight reflected across the windows of the Grand Crescent Hotel, Nathan glanced once more at the white pickup truck that had quietly accompanied him through every unseen sacrifice. It had never represented poverty. It represented perseverance. And in the end, the greatest luxury was never owning a magnificent hotel. It was possessing the character to remain humble in success, faithful during hardship, generous when no one expected it, and wise enough to know that the richest life will always be measured by the people whose futures become brighter because you chose to care.